Well, the good news is that World War III has not broken out today, or not yet. China threatened to send in the army of US Speaker Nancy Pelosi, third in line in power in the United States, if she landed in Taiwan, which China claims is just a renegade province. But she flew in anyway, taking the long route to avoid flying near Chinese rockets and bases, and landed in Taiwan before later giving a speech to Taiwan's parliament.
Today, the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
Now, she has absolutely humiliated China's dictator, who warned US President Joe Biden in a phone call before this trip that this visit would be playing with fire, and those who played with fire would be destroyed. So what could he now do when his bluff was called? Well, China banned imports of biscuits from Taiwan. They're not sure that's going to hurt much, and even rushed tanks to a beach in China 140 kilometres of sea away from the Taiwanese mainland. But more and more serious is to come. Pelosi is still in Taiwan, and China will within days hold live fire exercises in the no-go zones that will ring Taiwan. Rockets will be fired. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, Pelosi's just showboating, but I have to say she does have a long history of standing against the communist Chinese tyranny. I mean, 31 years ago, she and two other US lawmakers went to Tiananmen Square to pay tribute to students massacred by the government for protests against democracy. So good on her for being consistent. Joining me is Sky News US correspondent Annalise Nielsen. Annalise Nielsen, thank you so much for your time. Nancy Pelosi's visit. Now, the president didn't want her to go. His military chiefs did not want her to go. Why did she go?
Well, I think at one level there is quite an authentic part of her policy. She's been very pro-democracy. She made those visits to China early on when it was controversial as well, and it looks that she is all but set to retire. And so this does seem like a way to kind of capstone her career on a positive. And I think one of the reasons that she wanted to go was the fact that there was a strong reaction and she didn't like being told what to do. Now, this was a risky move, especially when you've got the president who's part of your own party asking you not to go, to then continue on that path, and there wasn't necessarily military support either, and this was quite an escalation really, but it was welcomed by the Taiwanese people, and there's been a huge amount of support on Capitol Hill. There's Republicans who in a million years you wouldn't dream of coming out and saying that they supported anything Nancy Pelosi did, and the complaints from them today was that it wasn't a bipartisan delegation, that there weren't Republicans invited to go along with it. Some of the more hardliners in the party were saying, look, we would have gone if we'd been invited, but she wanted to make her way there, and it's still a tenuous situation. The Chinese have started retaliating, and it's a very tricky thing to manoeuvre. But the fact that she made that walk on the tarmac there, the first person that senior to go to Taiwan from the US government in more than 25 years, is a really strong statement that does have bipartisan support in Washington, D.C., even if it's not the support of her own president.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think she's made Joe Biden look weak, but she's made President Xi Jinping of China look even weaker. He's been humiliated after all those threats, and she's still gone. And what's he going to do now? I mean, tanks on the beach? I mean, just seriously.